I'm asking, should we get rid of unisex loos? I've never come across anyone who thinks they're a great idea or who likes them. When was the law passed that said there have to be unisex loos? What consultation did the public get in this sudden volte-face in a system that had lasted hundreds of years? Men's loos, women's loos, separate, separate, separate. What is wrong with that? Why do we have to change that? 0344 499 1000. But get in touch on all those issues or anything else you want to talk about. Now, let's talk to the founder of Let Women Speak, Kellie-Jay Keen, because I want to ask her all about Keir Starmer. Hi, Kelly.
Hi.
Now, listen, let's talk about Keir Starmer. Now, Rosie Duffield, a woman I admire, Labour MP, she said some years ago, only women have cervixes. Not, I would have thought, a particularly controversial thing to say. This is in 2021. The Labour leader replied that that was not something that shouldn't be said, and it was not right. He's now changed his mind and said that she was, of course, this is 3 years on, she was, of course, right to say that only biological women have cervixes. He also, you know, he kind of had this, don't forget, this is the guy that wouldn't answer whether or not a woman can have a penis. And in the end, when he thought he was being like, hey, listen, I'm one of you, I'm a normal guy here. Of course, 99% of women don't have penises. I wish he'd tell us about this mysterious 1%. Have you got any idea who these 1% of women are who've got penises?
Well, I think they might be the sort of people that are informing him, which, you know, is nonsense. I think the thing with Keir Starmer is he's been lying or he's been stupid. I mean, I don't know what else we can say he's been over the last few years. As for Rosie, and I think she might have asked for an apology, I don't know why any woman's still in Labour. I mean, the unions have intimidated women, the Labour conferences have made women feel unwelcome, and their policies on this particular issue have been absolutely insane. And the things that they've been willing to say, and even some of their sort of very famous, feisty MPs have been silent. So I don't get why anyone's still in Labour.
And why would you think that Keir Starmer is now saying, it appeared on Good Morning Britain yesterday, and he said Labour has championed women's rights for a very long time. How does that fit in with the fact that half of them 3 or 4 years ago, including Starmer, were all saying, you know, women could have penises and trans women are women, even though that's not true?
Well, it's really abusive, isn't it? Because he's now sort of gaslighting everyone, saying, no, we never said that. You know, of course we didn't mean that. I mean, the words came out of my mouth. Of course they did, but they weren't true. I didn't mean it. You didn't hear it. Nobody said it. And this is a man that wants to run the country and we're supposed to believe a single word he says. It's just lunacy that anybody can get away with this, like any politician. And I think most of them are very similar to Keir Starmer, which is sort of, you know, chocolate all over his face, saying he's never seen the cake.
I mean, it is extraordinary. I mean, how did we ever get to this point where grown adults were saying, you know, if you have some surgery or you put some lippy on and a skirt and you're a bloke, you're suddenly a woman? I mean, how did we get to that? And how did we get to serious politicians saying that this was the case?
Well, I think there are many routes to it. One of them is your lovely Ofcom, which was captured and forced people to call men she. Like whether they want to or not. And I actually don't think anybody should. But when you have the state by threat of punishment, and I've been interviewed repeatedly by the police, through threat of punishment, losing your job, the NHS going along with everybody being captured, and then the threats of being called a white supremacist, a Nazi, a transphobe, and all of those things for saying that you don't think women can have penises. I think the culture was created, and it's top down. So 2004 is the pivotal moment when we made it legal in this country for a man to be recognised as a woman.
And do you think, though, Kelly, partly or probably quite majorly due to a lot of great work that you've done, that we are at least beginning to turn the tide. At least people are starting to say, hang on a second, we're not going to take this madness anymore. As you remember Penny Mordaunt, you know, just to prove that this lunacy about women with penises and stuff was on both sides of the house. You remember when she stood up and said, a trans woman is a woman? Well, they're not, are they? I mean, how did we get to the point where serious politicians were standing up in the House of Commons and saying a trans woman is a woman?
Well, because we made it so in 2004, and then we included gender identity, or rather gender reassignment, which is a concept that doesn't really mean anything, because then they put a guidance in to say it could be anyone who just said he might be a woman on a Tuesday. So it created a culture in which people were forced to lie, because once that man had a certificate to say that he was a woman, legally recognised, it just put a seal of authority on it. And then people started adhering to it. And then you eventually get to this point where people are willing to lie and say that they think women have penises, or even worse, say that it's right that some children are born in the wrong body. So my fear about this ending is that the compromises will have been made, and we won't get back to where we were pre-2004, which is where I'd like to be. I think we'll go back about 6 years. So there still will be some men and women's prisons. There still will be some men and women's groups. And I really worry that because they're making the right noises, that people are going to think that this is over, and it's not. I
mean, some people, I think, do suffer from, you know, genuine gender dysphoria. But to go back to that point you just made, can a child, baby, if you like, ever be born in the wrong body?
No, absolutely not. Look, I don't believe in gender dysphoria. I think there are people that have response to trauma, and we've called it that. But gender doesn't really exist. Gender is sort of the role, apparently, that you're supposed to play. So to have an internal sense of gender is completely bonkers. It just doesn't make any sense.
When I was at school, gender was whether or not you were a bloke or a girl. But suddenly it's whether or not you want to be a bloke or a girl. We've changed the meaning of that word, haven't we?
Well, look, I used gender probably very late on, not when I was a child. I don't think I'd ever heard the word gender. I think the Americans used gender because they were too prudish.
To use the word sex.
Okay. So I'd just like to get back to that word. I'd like to get back to really efficient words where everybody knows what they mean, and we can't then put a layer of sort of opaque meaning on top of it so that we can pretend it means whatever we want. A bit like the word cervix for Keir Starmer.
Exactly. Earlier in the show, we were discussing Kemi Badenoch talking about the crucial nature of providing safe spaces, single-sex spaces, to provide women with dignity, etc., etc. And it brought the question up. We started talking about unisex loos. So I've been asking my audience, and we got lots of calls on it. I said, let's ban unisex loos. Whoever asked for them? When was that law passed? It was just imposed on us. What are they for? Have you ever met anybody who likes unisex loos? Why have we got them?
That's such a good question. I met an elderly man on a platform, I think it was Southampton or somewhere, on a train platform, and he wouldn't use the loo because he felt that he was imposing, because they'd made these male and female toilets, and they'd split them up. And one side was, I think they were all unisex. Anyway, he wouldn't go to the loo. He didn't want to infringe upon any woman's privacy or dignity. He just didn't want to do it.
I feel really awkward when I've only got a unisex loo to choose from. Listen, Kelly, got to go. Great to talk to you as always. Thank you so much for your time. Kellie-Jay Keen there.